working behind the scenes to try and teach financial literacy to kids in schools? What do they need to know?
So, Laura, yeah, I guess starting with it is after I wrote The Barefoot Investor, sold a couple of million copies, the number one question people asked me was, why didn't I get taught this in schools? So that was the first question, and kind of the journey I set out to answer. And what I found was that we're trying to integrate financial education into the curriculum, but there's nothing really standalone that actually helps young people learn. What I like to say, it's the one subject that every kid is going to be tested on every day of their life, and a pass or a failing grade really colours their entire life. So for me, I went in and created programs for primary school kids, like really small, sort of prep grade 1, grade 2, and the idea was not really even about financial education as such, it's just really a tool. So I got them working and creating that link between getting out of bed and actually getting paid, which is a good thing. And sometimes some 35-year-olds that I meet haven't actually created that link. And then it was getting them to spend wisely, getting them the experience of saving up for something, and also giving, so that we have kids that are charitable and that are kind. So from a primary school level, it is just those behaviours and those beliefs that you want to do. And for high school kids, I was targeting sort of 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and they're very teenagery at that age. I got a lot of shade thrown at me. And it was just that idea of it's not theory as such, it's more about experiences. So I got them applying for their a part-time job on a weekend, even if it was for a few hours, getting them to set up what I call their little money buckets and saving for a goal and having that feeling that they're good with money versus what kind of tends to happen is parents say, my teenager is lazy, knows nothing about money, knows nothing about the real world. Well, guess what? If you have that narrative, all too often kids will actually prove you right and end up getting themselves in all sorts of financial trouble.
So it's kind of about knowing, the cost of everything but the value of nothing, and you're trying to de-link that or link it better, if my analogy is correct there. So I guess we get to our 20s and 30s and don't know a lot of things that we should know in life. So what's the number one thing you want kids graduating from high school knowing, how important super is, how important work is, how much you should save, how much you should spend, all those kinds of things?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you're absolutely right in that we expect young people to know a lot of stuff. So we expect them to know about superannuation. Although the super providers would probably rather that we don't know a lot about super, because then we'll get stuck into really expensive funds. We expect them to know about tax. We expect them to know about private health insurance, all sorts of things. But if we as a community and as a government don't actually teach our kids these things, how are they going to learn? They're going to learn by trial and error like we have. But to your question, I think the number one thing that I want for kids is to actually say, I'm good with money. Because all too often I have people that kids say to me, I'm not a numbers person, I'm not very good at maths, so therefore I'm not good with money. And so I want to change that conversation and get kids not just doing sort of being talked at, but actually experiencing things and saying, hey, I'm actually really good with money. I saved my parents some money on their power bill or their phone bill, and we want to change that dialogue so that kids say, I am good with money and I'm going to make good decisions, because we know that when kids turn 18, they're some of the most financially illiterate people in Australia. And also they're some of the most heavily marketed to people in Australia. You've got all the banks, all the financial institutions all trying to sign them up because they know they've got 40 years to pay the damn things off. And for me, I want to change that. And I would just say that I'm not getting paid anything for this. I'm volunteering. I just passionately believe that if we're going to try and change things, it needs to start with our kids.
Okay, I'm an adult. I'm sure there's a lot I can learn from your show tonight. I'm not a spreadsheet kind of person. Some of my friends are.
It's okay.
So what should we tune in for tonight? What are we going to learn?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just it's the journey that I'm on to actually look at why aren't we getting taught this stuff? And really, we're at a really strange time of the economy where you've got interest rates at basically zero, right? So anyone that owns a property right now or owns shares are doing really, really well. But those people that don't, so young people, renters, they're sort of falling far behind, because not only are they seeing their property prices go up, but the interest they're earning on their savings account is basically nothing. So my idea again is saying this is a problem, and it's only going to get worse. And the only way I can see, the common sense way of trying to tackle that, is to actually equip kids so that they understand the rules of the game. So that's what you're going to be learning on the show. And it's sort of a journey that is still going now, because I'm still campaigning all the education ministers to try and get this in schools.
And they're liking it? Are you there yet? Obviously not, but just quickly.
No, I'm not. So I've got a change.org petition, change.org/money-movement. I had some success with some state ministers, but overall, it's kind of like a lot of the education departments don't see it as their job. They've outsourced it to the banks, which is kind of like having Ronald McDonald in classrooms teaching your kids about food nutrition. I just think that this is fundamental. It's core, it's life skills, and every kid shouldn't be able to graduate unless they actually have some experience in this.
Well,